What I was going to say is the interesting thing about my prosecutor, who again my lawyer said wasn't fit to carry his bags to court. When she gave a presentation to I don't know, some bar association or something, some legal conference. My friend attended, my friend from high school, and he said she opened her slide deck up, and the first bullet point, prosecuted Martin Shkreli, and it was like, well, first of all, I wouldn't exactly be, lauding that, because one, it was a different guy who came up with the prosecution, a guy named Winston. We found Winston leaked the grand jury minutes to this woman named Christy Smythe. How do I know that this is true? Well, I would end up dating Christy Smythe, as funny as that is. So my own girlfriend was able to give me the scoop that Winston confidentially called her and said, we're investigating a guy named Martin Shkreli. Do you know who that is? She said, no, I don't. And she's a reporter at Bloomberg. And he said, well, I'll tell you all about it. Are you going to, the implication being, I want you to write about this. And she did write about it. And another case, we didn't get this through my case, but another case, this happened as well. And the guy had the wits to do a FOIA request. And in the FOIA request, what do you find in the FOIA request? Well, it is a crime. It is a federal crime to discuss the ongoings of a criminal procedure with anyone outside of the grand jury. This is exactly what he did. Now, you might say, no big deal, right? Prosecutors do this all the time. Well, Kathleen Kane was the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, a state here in the United States. What happened to Kathleen Kane? I said well, she went to jail for doing exactly this. She did 3 years for leaking grand jury testimony. It is a crime, technically. It's not a big crime, but at the end of the day, what I think is funny is if you are telling me that I'm breaking the law, and at the same time you're breaking the law by trying to get me wrapped up in breaking the law, then isn't this sort of a funny thing? Because you're breaking the law while you're trying to convince the world that I'm breaking the law. It doesn't seem really just or fair that, it's not commensurate. It's not, symmetrical. You can't break the law while you're telling me I'm breaking the law. Well, when you do it, it's okay. But when I do it, it's,
He's one of them, right? Don't ever go after one of them. At the end of the day, he's one of them, and your name is Martin Shkreli. And, you became the poster people took all the anger on pharmaceuticals. They took it out on you. I mean, that's what happened.
No, of course, and that's why this loser prosecutor, who this will be the most important thing she ever does in her entire life, which is saying something. That's why she's still proud of her quote unquote work, which was done by this Indian guy, not her. And again, we found that the Indian guy coerced witnesses. We found this indisputable crime. I mean, we have the literal email where they discussed my case, which she's not a part of the fucking system. She's a journalist. Use the journalist to leak information so that you can gain an edge. You're not doing that because you like the journalist or you think they're doing great work.
What do you mean they leaked information? They have a direct line to anytime, and that's how they destroy your image publicly. It's not like, wow, they destroy. That's how they destroy people's lives. I mean, your image. They will destroy your reputation publicly and then take you to a trial. And then, my question though, Martin, you had your jury selection. What type of jury did they select for you?
We had to
go after like the dumbest or smart jury. I'm very sure that was taken into consideration.
We had a good jury. We had a really good jury, and we almost won. Right? We beat. That's why I think this prosecutor should. Not only was she not the sort of lead person in the prosecution, after we found all this stuff about our guy, guess what happened? Guess what the prosecutor did? He quit. He quit the government. He joined a law firm. He didn't even go to his own trial, which was his capstone of his career. He said, you know what? I'm out of here.
Is that Preet?
No, this is Winston Pace, who is the Preet of the Eastern District. He wanted Preet. He wanted Preet's. He kind of wanted Preet's, notoriety or whatever. Preet's. You call it fame. People respect Preet. I don't. Preet is sort of like did a great PR job of saying he was the guy who cleaned up Wall Street. But in fact, if you look at what the only thing Preet did was he actually weakened the insider trading laws. The case law for insider trading was pretty good until Preet showed up. And then Preet had all these edge cases where the Second Circuit, which is the Eastern, that covers that district, the Second Circuit decided to change and weaken all the insider trading law. So now it's legal to insider trade so long as there isn't a financial incentive for the tippee and the tipper, from the tippee to the tipper. So in other words, as long as the information passes through a conduit where there's no money that changes hands, I can insider trade legally. Now, I'm still not going to do it, but it's a very funny thing that, Preet thinks of himself as this great cop who cleaned up Wall Street and all this stuff, and all he did was make insider trading easier to do. So, to me, it's like just a riot of how these people think they're heroes, and in reality is quite a bit different. So anyway, this guy, rather than go to trial and finish the capstone to his career, which would not have been a problem. Any law firm will wait. They don't give a shit. He decides to go ahead and quit. He leaves it in this other junior prosecutor's hands. Of course they win, which is to be expected, but they lose 5 out of 8 counts. You're not supposed to lose any counts. So the fact that we beat 5 out of 8, which is the majority, is a stunning victory in my mind. I was very happy after that. I'm sure you guys saw it, and some people were confused by that. But I knew what I was walking into, a 99% chance of losing. So when you win half the trial, you actually get some good play on, look, Your Honor, obviously there's something wrong with this case. They didn't find me guilty.
Can I jump for one second?
You keep
conviction rate.
You keep jumping in. You keep jumping. You asked if you could jump in, and you didn't wait for me to tell you if you could or you couldn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're a very
I'm very new. I'm sorry.
yeah, you're a very annoying, in fact, and I'm gonna have to reduce your volume because it's a little bit frustrating. So the conviction rate at the feds is extremely high. It's very, very, very hard to beat.
97, 98%.
Yeah, so I felt it was a wonderful victory that I was very proud of. And when you have just a few counts left, often you can make a case that, look, this whole thing is a fucking joke, right? Like, I didn't do anything. They got 3 to stick because anybody can get 3 to stick, but getting 5 acquitted is a remarkable achievement. I'm still very, very proud of it. And one of the counts was just such a joke that it was pursued regardless, and it was just one of these things that it just, if you read it, didn't make any sense at all, and it'd be very hard to disagree with that. So we felt that really there was 2 substantive things out of 8 that they found me guilty of. And again, that's not a small thing, right? I mean, crime is crime. You don't want to commit any crime. But 2 out of 8 is very different than 8 out of 8. And I think that, again, I'm proud of that result. I'm not proud of the 2 that didn't work out. But I feel like if you look at the totality of it, if you have a jury that says, well, on 5 of these things, we don't agree with the prosecution. And the government spent all their time and all their money trying to prove that. The witnesses, they put on 35 witnesses. We put on no witnesses. I didn't ask one single person to say one thing in my defense. And I think that was, again, very telling. And the jury was a group of people who never heard of me, which is hard to find. About a third of people in America, we've did some research, don't know who I am, which is great. And that third thought that I was, sharp. And the one woman was arguing for my complete innocence in the jury room. And she was talked down by the other 11. It was like that movie, 12 Angry Men. And I'll never forget this woman. I know her name and everything, and I still have to send her a gift maybe when all this is over, years and years from now, for being a wonderful person. Maybe a letter would be a good thing to send her. She tried to get me completely acquitted. The others in the jury wanted convictions, so they kind of split the baby. And that's unfortunate. But again, if you go to trial, it's very easy to make somebody look guilty because the prosecution gets to go first, which is very, very frustrating. If studies have shown, and I think, Mike, you know a lot about this, that if you show if you show somebody a bunch of evidence or an argument, let's say if I were to argue for something, I don't know, anything, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, whatever it is, and I get to go first, you hear my spiel before you hear anybody else's. And it's going to influence you far more than by the time you hear the second argument, especially if I get to go and talk for days and days and days and days. By the end of the week, you're like, man, I'm tired. I've heard this argument. Fuck it, I agree with them. 3 months later, you finally get to hear the other side of the argument. Well, you've already made up your mind. You've seen all the evidence that leads you to believe the first conclusion, which in this case is the defendant's guilty. And you would...
You could argue it's called priming, and there's elements of cognitive fatigue too that take place, and people just like they don't want to process any more information because it requires work, and people just say fuck it. Like
that's right.
So was the strategy to allow the prosecutor basically lose their own case?
Yeah,
you didn't have any witnesses?
That's the only thing you can do is you use this dramatic moment. It's basically theater, where you say, and I think we slightly erred on it, because I took very copious notes on a similar case in Texas, where they gave no witnesses. And it's supposed to be a dramatic moment where you really hammer it home. And you're supposed to really go out there and say, like, you use that because it's a shocking thing to say these people just brought 35 human beings to say bad things about me. And we think that it was so bad that you're putting on a show. It's like a concert. That their concert sucked so much that we're not even going to put on a concert. We're telling you right now that we don't need to. Anything was better than that. We don't have to say a word because we know that you guys know what we know, which is I'm not guilty. And it's a really dramatic thing, and we didn't play it up nearly as much as we could have. And this guy in Texas used it over and over again. He kept saying in his closing argument, we didn't put on a case because we don't have to. The prosecution proved my client's innocent inadvertently. And you seed that idea in the jury's head, and they're like, wow, that's really weird. Usually you hear from both sides. We're not even hearing from one witness. Are they that sure? Should we be that sure? This is weird. Right? That's the kind of thing you want them thinking. And it worked to some extent for us, I think. It was very dramatic to do.
No, we didn't.
Hello?
where'd everybody go?
Anyway, that's that. So an interesting, approach, but I think I think more people should testify, to be honest. They say it's the worst thing to do, but it's it's what some people do. I think it's
Isn't it dependent on the preparation of the prosecution for you to take the stand? I mean,
yeah, it depends on the state of the
thing, right?
It depends on the state of the case for sure, but I think that like this idea that a defendant should never ever take the stand, which is the general thesis most people have, I think it's not right. I mean, I think there's many situations where it makes sense to take the stand, and I don't know. I kind of wish I took the stand, but again,
No.